Hello everyone, Deb Floros, guest designer for rings and things. I'm making the perfect gift for a coffee lover. I'm calling this bracelet the Coffee Break bracelet, and I'm using Prestige 8mm Rivoli sew-on stones and these coffee beads that are actually trade beads. They're not really coffee, but they sure look like it. They're a little rustic and they have a little bit of dust that comes off of them as you use them. I'm using the Toho Amiot beading thread, which I absolutely love for macrame. And I'm going to use the Beadle-On tying station to actually complete the bracelet. Now, to get it onto the tying station, I'm actually creating a small loop at the top of my Rivoli, and we're going to remove that small loop a little bit later, but we're going to tie that down, and I'm adding two strands of that Amiot thread, but I'm creating actually 4 strands. So I'm able to put 2 strands through the bottom of my Rivoli, and then I'm going to pull those even, so one strand is even at the bottom and the other strand is even, and the outer strand should be longer than your inner strand. And then I'm going to pull on some of those coffee beads. And all I need to do is string them onto those middle strands and tie that middle section down. Then I'm going to use a very traditional macrame knot, and it's really kind of like creating a square knot, but you're going to be going under those 2 middle threads. So you'll create a little loop, you'll pull the beading thread over and under, and you'll do it on either side in order to complete one knot. Now, in the beginning, when I tie directly to that little sew-on piece, I'm doing 3 whole knots. Then I'm going to push up my first coffee bead. And I like to have just a little bit of separation between that little sew-on and that first bead. Then I'm just going to repeat that same macrame knot, and I'm going to do 2 knots between each bead. Now, something that I did was I made sure that the beads were sort of cupping the knots and facing the cup portion, facing the actual sew-on piece. And you'll see that when you pick up these beads, that they actually look like a little cup, and you can face them in whichever direction you like, but I kind of liked them facing the little sew-on both sides. So when I'm comfortable with the number of beads that I need for each side, and I had to actually add a few more on to my first side that I completed. But when you're happy with that, all you're going to do is continue on with some remaining knots. So you'll do 3 knots at the end, and then you've completed the first half of your bracelet. You'll need to remove it from the tying station and cut off that temporary loop. Then cut about the same amount of material that you did for the first 2 strands that you added, and you'll add it the same exact way to the other side of that sew-on. And you'll take those beads again and cup them in the right direction, and you will begin macrameing just like you did on the other side. So you'll do 2 of those overhand square knot type knots that are your traditional macrame knots. You'll just do 3 on the other side of that sew-on, just like we did on the other end, and you'll push up that first bead, and then you'll keep repeating that pattern until you have the desired length of beads that you'd like. I used 12 beads on either side of that sew-on. Once you've got your desired number of beads, you'll remove the piece from your tying station, and look at that, it looks so good. What you'll need to do then is make sure you've got the right size, so test it on your wrist if it's for you, and then you'll want to create, by grabbing all 4 strands, an overhand knot on either end. And you can add some glue if you'd like, but then you'll want to cut all 4 of those strands to roughly the same length. I use GS Hypo Cement as my glue of choice for this kind of project. Then you're going to want to separate those center 2 strands, and you're going to put them through a fold over bead tip. And you should be able to fit 2 nicely through there. And then using a beading awl, you will create a knot, push that knot down to that little indentation in that finding, and then you can actually fold it over with your fingers and maybe secure it with your pliers. You'll do the same thing on the other side, and you can use some glue inside that finding if you'd like. Save your extras, you never know if you might need it. Then protect your workspace and use an awl to create some fringy ends. So I do leave a little bit of those ends, and I think the fringy look is cool. You'll then attach a jump ring to one of your little findings and a lobster claw to the other with a jump ring. And you've got a really fun coffee break bracelet, great for the coffee lover on your gift list this year. You can find everything to make this project at ringsandthings.com. I hope you'll give it a try. Thanks so much for watching.